Shabbat Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Numbers chapter 28. There are 31 verses, beginning in verse 2. In my feasts, verses in their due season. So you can see they are, in fact, feasts, not just uh, seasons, or maybe it could be said appointed times. Actually, that's kind of stretching it. Season, it's vague. Feasts are clearly feasts. Um, it says here, my gifts, my presents, my burnt offerings for a sweet smelling savor, versus my offering, singular, and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire. So it's specifying only bread in the Masoretic, whereas we know when we continue reading in the chapter, it's not just bread that you're burning. Verse 3, offerings versus offering. The reason I bring this one up is because there's an omission here of the word all. So there are multiple, it's not just one offering, there are multiple things that you must bring. All of these you shall bring. So it's not one offering. That's significant if you are actually obeying what it's saying here. If you're going to follow this to a T, you have to make sure it's not just one offering. Okay, moving on to verse 10, talking about not just the weekly Sabbath, but Sabbaths on the Sabbath days. So this could include the um, the holy days, because the first and last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Tabernacles are both high Sabbath days, versus every Sabbath, which could be interpreted to mean the weekly Sabbath only. Okay. Verse 11, new moons versus beginning of your months. So, or beginnings. So, what is a beginning of a month? That could be one day, it could be multiple days. But at the new moon, it's one day. It's one set point in time. That's the first day of the month. That's what it means. Verse 12, we have an addition here. It says a meat offering. It says that twice. Meat offering. Um, Not referring to the animals. This is referring to the flour. So that's important. So it isn't, because it says here flour for a meat offering. So when it says meat offering, this is a term understood to mean uh, food. What is your meat? What is your food? That's what it means. It's not literally animals all the time. We have an omission here of fine flour. It's not fine flour in the Masoretic, but it is definitely in the Septuagint. That's a continual difference. I'm not going to mention that anymore for this chapter. Verse 16, talking about the Passover. Passover to Yah, uh, whereas here it says of Yah. Yes, he is the creator of the Passover, but this is a commemoration to him. Okay, a feast to Yah, you could even say as well. Verse 17, a feast versus the feast. Usually when people refer to the feast, they're talking about Feast of Tabernacles. It just happens to be part of this culture. If you're keeping these feast days, when you talk about the feast, that's the big one. That's the last one, or one of the last ones, if you include the 8 days of feast. Verse 21, add a several. It says a several, 10th deal, and for the 7 lambs, versus throughout the 7 lambs. I'm not sure what throughout means, if you're just doing that, sprinkling them throughout the 7, but it is for the 7 lambs. A tenth of, I believe it's what is talking about in verse 20, about the fine flour with mixed with oil. Verse 23, we have an omission, kid. It says kid of the goats, but kid of the. So it is not just any goat of any age, it is specifically a kid of the goats, a young goat. But a kid, I believe, talks about at least a goat of the first year, having lived a year. But it does say one kid of the goats, doesn't say year, so I'm just inserting that. But that's the assumption. Verse 23, perpetual. This is a perpetual whole burnt offering that was omitted. Verse 24, a gift was omitted as well in the Masoretic. Verse 25, shall be to you a holy convocation. Here it says, you shall have a holy convocation. Um, Either way, it is a command. However, it is to you, to your people, a holy convocation. Um, it is for them. It is something that um, they are to do. Okay, so it's a little bit different, not wildly different in any way. Verse 26, new corn on the day of the new corn, which is barley, because again, corn is not a Middle Eastern crop, versus first fruits. Um, because we know the new year is determined by the new barley, the Aviv barley, not the first fruits. Sacrifice, a new sacrifice versus a meat offering. And then it says here at the festival of weeks, known as Shavuot, that's or Pentecost, versus after your weeks be out. Um, so we can see, well, this was inserted at the festival, but if we're reading into it, when you shall offer a new sacrifice of weeks to, yeah, so it does seem to imply that there could be a relation to Pentecost. Here it says after your weeks. We're not sure what that means. It's very vague, but this can be a little bit vague too. But I think it's more, excuse me, I believe it's more related to Shavuot, to Pentecost. I believe that is the understanding here. They even inserted that, so there seems to be some kind of understanding that that's what it's for. If you look at the previous verses, you will see there's a progression from moving from Passover, and then the next one is is Pentecost, on the day of the new corn. Okay, so it's possible. It's also possible it may not be that, but I leave that possibility open. Can't discount it. Verse 27, an omission. It says without blemish. These seven lambs have to be without blemish, and it was added in the Masoretic of the first year. Verse 30, we have our last difference that I'm going to point out. It says here for a sin offering. So this offering given, which is a lamb and a kid of the goats, was for a sin offering, not simply an atonement, but more specifically a sin offering to make atonement for you. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for your time. May God bless you and make your way prosperous. Till next time, you've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom and peace be unto you.